So as we say, my name is Tom, and I'm a data analyst at Parkinson's UK. And today we're going to be kind of talking through our approach to using data in service design, specifically our Parkinson's Connect project, which has been running for just over 2 years now, to redesign the way our information and support services are working at Parkinson's UK. So just very quickly, I thought it might be useful to give a little bit of background for anybody who's not familiar with Parkinson's and Parkinson's as a condition. So it's a progressive neurological condition, which means that it causes problems with the brain, and then it gets worse over time. And you may or may not know that there are actually over 40 symptoms of Parkinson's. So that can range from some of the more common symptoms, such as the tremor, to things like anxiety and depression, bladder control problems. There's a huge range of symptoms relating to Parkinson's. And as you can see over on the right-hand side there, there are currently an estimated 145,000 people living with Parkinson's in the UK. And obviously its reach is much wider than that when you start to include things like friends and family and carers of those people with Parkinson's. So a little bit of background about where we are at the moment as a charity with our information and support services. We're currently estimating that we're reaching around 50,000 people a year through things like our national helpline and our local advisor service. And also our online community forum, and then print resources that are sent out to people who have obviously had contact in some form with the charity, but may or may not kind of have ongoing contact through things like the helpline or local advisors or even our forum, but continue to receive information and support publications from us. And again, over on the right-hand side there, we've just done a little kind of illustration of the current reach within that estimated 145,000 people with Parkinson's in the UK. So yeah, like we say, we've kind of taken a step back and over the last 2 years been reviewing how we're reaching and supporting those people at the moment. And it was clear that there was a need for change. Our existing service model, so that kind of largely person-led service model is just not able to scale to meet that new demand and that increasing demand with a kind of growing number of people being diagnosed each year. We need to make sure that we're working effectively and efficiently as possible. The way that our services have potentially kind of come together over a number of years don't always ensure that. And at the same time, making sure that we're meeting changing user expectations. You know, the way that users expect to interact with services changes all the time. And we need to make sure that we're keeping up with that. And fundamentally, like we just saw on the last couple of slides, we're not actually there for everybody we need to be there for. People are missing out on information and support because we're just not reaching them and engaging them, and in some cases people are not even aware of our kind of existence or our information and support offer. So Parkinson's Connect is the name of our kind of service transformation project. As I say, it's a project that's been running for the last couple of years now to review the way that our information and support works for people with Parkinson's. And kind of we're really consciously calling out that also how it works for their family, friends, and carers as well from the moment of diagnosis. We've been very clear in this service offer that there will be information and support specific and available for that group of family and friends as well. And down at the bottom there, you can see kind of one of our guiding stars for this piece of work. So one of our organizational key results is that we want to be reaching and engaging 80% of newly diagnosed people with Parkinson's, and we may or may not kind of be able to do that through family and friends as well by 2024. So within the next 3 years, we really need to be increasing that reach from where we are now. So how are we doing this? Yeah, so we've taken a service design approach and an agile approach to the Parkinson's Connect project. I've stolen this description Data4GoodFest2021.gov.uk in that second sentence. But fundamentally, what we're doing is taking this service design approach, but it's always coming back to the fact that we want to be improving experiences for our users. And there's a huge number of kind of tools and techniques available for how to approach service design. But we've been really kind of clear. We've developed a set of principles as a team, always bringing ourselves back to the fact that we need to be improving experiences kind of first and foremost. And one of the kind of key ways of doing that within service design is making sure that we're working with the audiences who we're trying to support. So in this case, working with people with Parkinson's, working with their family, friends and carers to redesign these services and make sure that we're delivering things that really work for people and reach people in ways that they want to be reached and when they need to be reached as well. And so far through the project, through the last 2 years, we've worked with over 250 service users or potential service users to design where we've got to today. And obviously we're kind of really keen to keep that going and make sure that while the project is still going, it's something that we still do, but also it's something that continues after this dedicated kind of project space has finished. We've been fortunate enough to work with an organisation called FutureGov for a large amount of this project, and this is a slide that they kind of use a lot and they've worked up, but I really like it as a demonstration for some of the traps maybe or kind of older ways of thinking over on the left hand side and moving towards those things that we see on the right hand side. So moving away from this idea of kind of business and technical perspectives on things to user focused and, you know, our kind of justification for the work that we're doing coming from the voices of people themselves who will be using the services. Trying to move from complexity, as I say, potentially kind of old systems and old services that were pulled together quite individually and not necessarily with a kind of holistic and joined up service in mind, to simplicity, making things as clear and straightforward as possible for the people that we're trying to support, but also the staff who we're working with to deliver the service. Moving from this attitude and this sense of we can't change that to actually, you know, we can. One that's been particularly difficult for me as a data analyst is needing certainty, and actually over on the right hand side saying it's okay that we don't always know, we don't have all the answers straight away, and that's going to help kind of shape the work that we're doing, and it's okay to do that, and that's something that we've been really keen to kind of spread that message across the rest of the charity as well. Moving from fixed assumptions, so again joined into that, you know, we're not trying to prove ourselves right in what we think, we're approaching this a bit more openly and actually maybe approaching it in a way of how can we disprove this idea, or why might this not be the case, and moving from closed to open. It's something as a team, you know, we've struggled with at times, working in kind of silos and not having things as visible as they might be. It's certainly something that we kind of struggle with as a charity, but trying to be as open and collaborative as possible. So one of our ways of doing that is setting ourselves up in potentially a slightly different way to how other projects may have been set up in the past. We've got our dedicated service design team, which I sit on, which includes people like me who have been hired specifically for this project, but also people who have been seconded from other areas of the charity full-time into the project. And then we've got what we call our operational model. So that's people who have less of a day-to-day involvement in the project, but are responsible for running teams across the organization, or responsible for different areas to give us a really kind of broad view of what's happening across the charity and make sure that we're including voices from all different areas. And then over on the right-hand side, like we say, the kind of fundamental element of all of this is also co-designing and co-creating with people with Parkinson's, with their family, friends and carers who are going to be using the service, and also healthcare professionals who are fundamental to kind of pointing people in the direction of Parkinson's UK, and making that connection from the point of diagnosis. So I don't want to spend ages on this because I think we'll all be familiar with the different types of data that we have available to us, but I thought it might just be quite useful to kind of highlight some of the key data sources that we're talking about when we're thinking about service transformation. Definitely not an exhaustive list. I think one of the kind of early feelings was almost being a bit overwhelmed coming in as a data analyst about how much data was kind of available either throughout the charity in various different areas or in the public domain as well that could potentially help with the project, and actually quite quickly trying to get a handle on that and understand which data may be most useful as and when we kind of need it. So there's a couple of things here. So website browsing data. We at Parkinson's UK are seeing usually in the kind of hundreds of thousands of website visits per month. So we get a vast amount of data coming through Google Analytics. Feedback data on the right hand side there. So we're kind of always asking people as a charity and specifically to the project as well. We've been getting out there and asking people through the website or through our advisor services as well, how things are working for them at the moment. We've been doing an awful lot of user research, usability testing on new ideas, and kind of detailed ethnographic studies and conversations as well, to really hear what things are like for people, getting it in their own words, and working really closely with them. We had a 6-month discovery phase where we had a huge number of conversations with people. I think we were up to about 70 kind of in-depth conversations about what might work for people, what isn't working at the moment, how they may want to be reached. And like we say, that includes healthcare professionals as well as people with Parkinson's and family, friends and carers. And we've got our internal records. So we've got a relatively new CRM system that's been live since sort of mid-2019 for our information and support services. We also have separate databases at Parkinson's UK for things like volunteering data, supporter data as well. So those things don't exist in a joined up way at the moment. And that's been one of our struggles, actually, thinking about how all this does fit together and how we can piece it together. And you can kind of see there's tentative connections between some of these things, but we don't necessarily have a great grasp on how these things fit together, on how a single journey or a single experience might look like over a number of years. And that kind of leads to this fuzzy, not particularly clear picture of the people that we're trying to support in the middle of this diagram. And one of the things that we're hoping to do and really aiming to do with Parkinson's Connect and as a charity as well at the moment is connect these data sources to give us this much clearer picture of the people that we're trying to support. So having conversations across teams, coming together on a regular basis to share insights, to share even observations and kind of things that might seem anecdotal to one team, to see if there's connections across teams at the organization, and also understanding kind of at a fundamental level and from a data architecture point of view how we can kind of better be using the data that we're collecting across the board here. So I thought it might be quite useful to hop into a specific example, and this was going back now to the lockdown and the pandemic, when actually as a team we thought, could our skills be best used to maybe support some of those more immediate needs that we were seeing from people. So we took a look at data from various data sources, from Google Analytics, from our website, like we say, from our helpline, and kind of tried to piece that together as best we could to get a bit of a better understanding about the types of things that people were reaching out for support with. So you can see there's a little chart in the middle of the screen there. Hopefully that's clear enough. You don't need to worry about the different colors. They're just different types of inquiries that we were getting into our helpline. But these were all related to social care type inquiries. So you can see that they were kind of ticking along. Actually, there was a drop off from the start of the year. There wasn't necessarily a kind of an immediate reaction for people wanting to know about social care. But But actually, as we kind of pieced this together, as time went on, we headed into the sort of summer. We saw that after some of those immediate concerns around lockdown, social care kind of came to the fore, and our helpline. So the scale there, the kind of the top bars that you can see are around 80 calls per week around some of these social care inquiries that we were seeing. So this seemed like an area, you know, where we could quite quickly get hands-on, and we worked with the information content team to develop some new content, and also working with their kind of process where they go back and check any new content with Parkinson's as well to make sure that that's doing the job. To release some new information content on our website relating to social care inquiries. And you can see kind of quite a clear drop off quite quickly after that in the number of phone calls that were coming through after that content was released. You know, we're clear in the fact that we can't kind of attribute all of that to the fact that there was new content online, but actually there was a clear correlation between that number of phone calls. And if I just hop onto the next slide as well, a kind of rudimentarily traced on a line from our website browsing data here as well. So this is website browsing data on those new pages, and you can see that increases quite sharply from when it was introduced, and we were getting over 100 unique page views a week on some of that stuff when we were noticing that the drop off in calls came through. So that kind of, you know, that was a bit of a nice end-to-end journey, but we didn't want it to stop there. That raised new questions. You can see that the online data as well started to drop off a bit after that. And so we wanted to kind of go back to this, and that raised questions actually about how the information was served to people and how they were best able to find it online. And off the back of that, we went and made changes to kind of where that information was available, and how people could kind of best access it onto the Parkinson's UK website. So some of our key learnings, I think, from the project so far, and actually we did a kind of slightly different version of this presentation for an internal audience a few weeks ago. And I kind of feel like the key headline that we arrived on as a team out of this was that data and service design aren't necessarily separate things. And actually using data to improve services is service design. If that data is being collected in the right way, it's coming from the people that we're trying to support, then, you know, we're making service design and the design of good services difficult without including that. But it is important to note that we can't do that with data alone. It doesn't give us all the answers, which might seem like a bit of a controversial statement on a Data for Good presentation. We need to make sure that we're always working with service users to give us the best understanding of the data that we're collecting. Actually, is that showing us what we think it's showing us? You know, are we making the difference that we want to make and that we thought we were making? And are our services, you know, working for those people? Data is key for continuous improvement. So this idea of these kind of feedback loops, and actually it isn't an end-to-end journey, and a finalized product isn't going to be delivered at the end of that, but actually we need to continuously be working these up. Like we said at the beginning, there's a changing expectation from our users all the time, and actually we need to make sure that we're capturing, collecting, and kind of reporting and sharing data in the most useful way so that people can identify where changes need to be made. And crucially at the bottom as well, there's a piece here about developing this culture of confidence and transparency around data within the team, within the organization, to really make sure that what we're doing is scalable and is sustainable. We've talked a lot recently about a sense of belonging for people who are delivering the services. And by sharing the data that they're collecting for us with them in a way that's useful and, you know, interesting to them, gives them a sense of belonging in the service that they're delivering, and can ensure that the data that we're capturing is really good quality data, and they understand why we're asking for that data to be collected. And as we say, sharing data across the teams and charity in a kind of useful and usable way is going to help us as a team. It's going to help all teams to support their audiences better. So this is just a really quick example. We've developed a bit of a dashboard, which is available throughout the charity now, to look at the data that we're collecting through the project. So this is our kind of test phase at the moment. We're working with 3 different sites to introduce people to the charity, and we've made some of that kind of high-level data available in the form of a data studio dashboard across the charity. And I kind of won't dwell on this one too long, because as I say, I want to have time for a few questions. But this was the kind of closing slide, this idea of where do we want to get to with all of this. When I joined, as I say, I was kind of the lone data analyst in a multidisciplinary team. So we were very specialist led in our use of data. There were individual owners and gatekeepers of data and evidence, which meant that there was limited visibility for other people on the teams and other teams in the charity. We've started to make steps towards kind of number 2, building a more confident and upskilled project team. People are more confident and comfortable kind of in how to access that data, but also how to analyze it to some extent and make decisions without always needing needing to have someone like myself, an analyst, at least to make the data available for them. We can be there to help them ask the right questions and kind of pick it apart. And ultimately, we would love to be in a place where that's available across the whole charity, not just at a team level, but people and different teams across the charity can be making that connection. And actually, we can be viewing our interactions and our support as a kind of joined up view for the whole charity, not just at a kind of individual level, whether it's working for the helpline or whether it's working on the forum. So as I say, I know there was an awful lot of info to get through there. Hopefully it didn't feel too rushed. That's my email address. I know that we can always kind of connect through the conference as well while it's around today. So please feel free to get in touch with me. If you have any questions, if you wanted to follow up and discuss this in any more detail, it's thenderson@parkinsons.org.uk as well after today. Let me hop out of this now, and I will come back and see if we have any questions just in the last couple of minutes. I'll just hop into the Q&A to start with. If we have time, then I will come back to the chat. Apologies if we don't. I can see a question from Jennifer Jones. How did you address digital poverty as a charity, i.e. how to reach the people who are not connected through the internet? Yeah, absolutely, Jennifer. We haven't necessarily got an answer to that question yet. It's at the forefront of our mind. We've been really conscious in all the work that we do to speak to a variety of people. And that kind of online, offline split, which isn't the nicest way always to talk about it, but is a really fundamental one actually to our work at the moment. We're really trying where possible to kind of be channel agnostic with the information and support that we're providing. So for example, with our connections from healthcare professionals, in the first instance, that was an online form that healthcare professionals submitted to us. But we've recently released a version where they actually submit that same form, but that generates an inquiry that goes directly to one of our helpline advisors, who then will call somebody back if they either don't have access to the internet or just aren't comfortable accessing information and support online. So we're learning about that divide all the time. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you, Jennifer. But like I say, it is kind of at the forefront of our thinking. I can see one more very quickly from Sally, and apologies if I don't get onto your question now. But like I say, more than happy to follow up after this as well. Sally just saying, what have you learned about your data? Any key improvements you need to make? Do you need to review how you collect the data? Have you considered connecting data value more closely to service delivery? Absolutely, Sally. The data that we do collect at the moment was kind of a starting point. As I say, certainly our information support CRM hasn't been in place for too long, and I think there's definitely a kind of requirement to look at how that's collected, what is collected, and generate that sense of belonging with the people who are collecting the data, so that they could say, okay, you know, I'm asking this question, but I understand what that means for the bigger picture now. And that communication piece to the wider organization is obviously a huge part of this service design project. And I know I didn't touch on it a lot today. But yeah, that kind of bringing those internal teams along with us is something that we're working on all the time. And again, you know, we're learning. We haven't got it right yet, but we've been able to try out a few things as we go. We have involved some advisors from the helpline and the local advisor service in the project on a kind of day-to-day basis, which has actually really helped, and a two-way kind of value exchange. They understand why we're asking what we're asking, and we also understand, you know, how they're using and using the systems and tools at the moment. Sorry, conscious that I've kind of run a little bit over with this one. More than happy, like I say, to pick it up for the rest of the day. If anybody does have any questions, I will try and kind of grab some of those questions in the Q&A as well that we haven't had a chance to get onto, and I can always try and pick up with you outside of this session as well. But thank you all for making the time to come along to this one today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day and the rest of the festival.